Ladies and gentlemen, we are sitting right here at Paris Blockchain Week 2025, and as promised, we're going to be sitting with the best key opinion leaders, the co-founders, the CEOs, and of course, those in the space that set the trends, those who have been here from the beginning, like Mr. Adam Back. Adam, welcome back. This is not our first interview, so we've discussed many different points, but the beauty of the crypto space is that we are a few months ahead and so much has changed.
Right.
How do you feel about all the changes that have come through in the last, let's just say 48 hours?
Well, I guess there's always some drama of the day in a Bitcoin space, right? And so this drama, the current drama is not even Bitcoin generated. It's free trade, basically. And so, the way that's being explained in the media is that the US is sort of negotiating and proposing to introduce higher tariffs as a way to negotiate for the other countries bilaterally to reduce the tariffs. Now, I would say in general that free trade and no tariffs are good because there's a theory of comparative advantage where it's win-win for two people to trade, right? If one country is more cost-effective or better at producing something, another country is more cost-effective at something else, if they both do the thing they're better at and trade, they both benefit economically. And so that's part of the free trade concepts. So in Europe, we have a free trade zone. There are some other free trade activities. So if the outcome of this tariff negotiation is lower tariffs globally, and more like free trade, I would say that's definitely a good thing for the world economy. But markets don't like uncertainty, and during the negotiation period, it's creating a lot of uncertainty, and so it created significant volatility in the stock markets. So normally stock markets, like a stock index doesn't move, 5% move in a stock index is news. Like 5% move in Bitcoin is just, another day's volatility, and people are used to it, right? So for them, I think this was a problem, like they're worried, right? So some of it temporarily flowed into Bitcoin, but, we're back approximately where we were on Friday already, right? So, of course, weekends in Bitcoin are more thinly traded. There are less people actively trading. And the Bitcoin investors are typically all in. So they don't have a lot of cash to buy a dip, right? So it makes it hard to fill in volatility sometimes.
In our last conversation, you brought up a point that stuck with me. You told me that people are reacting to 1%, 2% change in the market, and that makes no sense. And you come across 40, 50% change, that's when you should react, because then the market's actually doing something relevant. Do you see that happening at any point soon based on where the American government is pushing traditional finance and also digital finance? Do you foresee that happening?
Well, I think a lot of, apart from the tariff, current negotiation, the backdrop for Bitcoin is actually very positive. The new US administration has removed a lot of anti-Bitcoin regulations and made it possible, for example, for banks to offer services to Bitcoin companies, removed some other friction to Bitcoin adoption, and is itself talking positively about retaining the Bitcoin that the government holds through seizures or potentially even buying. Now, personally, I'm more interested in individuals buying Bitcoin, either directly or through ETFs, because there are some people where the way they're used to interacting with their investment portfolio is via a broker, right? And so the ETF provides a way for them to do that. So I think about probably over 50% of the, so it's a little unclear because there's some hedge funds doing arbitrage and basis trading. So we know that 30% of the US spot ETFs are held by institutions. So probably over 50% are held by individuals, and these are people with savings and investments, so top 10% by savings wealth in the US, excluding the top 1%. So it's just, people with a stock portfolio, savings and a brokerage account. So they're the people that are buying the ETF, and they're good buyers. Like they're sticky. They don't panic sell generally. As sort of those kind of investors generally invest for like 5 years at least or something, right? Because that's how they do with stock allocations. So I think, that the improved regulatory clarity, and then there's also a lot of news flow about different wealth funds and financial institutions starting to offer Bitcoin services. So the institutional adoption, i.e. managed funds like mutual funds managed by professionals, this is all ultimately individual investor money but managed by other people. Like those things are still very early, but they're coming slowly, right? So I think as those things come in and the US government talking positively about Bitcoin, it helps, right?
Now, a lot of these actual hedge funds, a lot of the companies like Strategy have been changing the way people see Bitcoin. Adoption has been increasing, and we keep pushing in that direction. But to keep the balance, we also see a lot of companies dealing with an increase in scams, an increase in meme coins, an increase in rug pulls. And like I always say, if you want to foster adoption, you have to foster security. How do you believe that we might be able to actually bring those two things in balance?
Well, yeah, I think there are a lot of highly speculative assets, but it is shrinking as a kind of relevant proportion of the market because the proportion, the Bitcoin dominance index, the proportion of the market represented by Bitcoin is, I think, 63% now, which is a lot higher. I think it's almost double from what it was a few years ago. And fortunately, that metric includes stablecoins, which are quite big. So if you take the stablecoins out, it's probably in the 70s. And then if you look at new entrants, so people buying ETFs, the institutional investors managing funds, the pension funds, those are much higher percentage into Bitcoin specifically, and that's one of the growth areas, right? So I think the other thing that's arisen is that you can see it in the dominance index, right? That there's been a kind of more is less, because the meme coins really ramped up the numbers and accelerated the time frame between the pitch and the rug pull, where the insiders sell, to 2 days, and that is you get speculator exhaustion, right? If they do something and they lose money, sooner or later they stop or they get disinterested. So I think that's happened, and the meme coins really jumped the shark by flooding the market with literally millions. I think it got up to probably 30,000, different speculative altcoins, but now there are millions of meme coins. So it's too much. So I think that has actually eroded in speculator interest, and people like playing in casinos is the way to think about it, right? But if you keep losing and it seems hopeless that you could ever win, then you stop, right? That's the picture at this point.
Now, if you think about it, you're going to be attending a lot of panels, side events. Which panel are you looking forward to?
One of the things we're going to talk about at this event in Paris is the Blockchain Group, which is a French company that is using the MicroStrategy playbook. And there are other ones, like this MetaPlanet in Japan. And so this is actually a software company. So they're an independent software vendor, and they also do consulting using AI tools. And so the company bought Bitcoin, and most recently they bought, I think, maybe over 550 Bitcoin, something like that, which is a lot. So basically they have increased the amount of Bitcoin they were holding by 14 times.
That's impressive.
And, so of course the investment is via convertible notes, which are a form of debt. But the novel part of the blockchain group, as compared to any other prior convertible note as issued by MicroStrategy or others, is that it's Bitcoin denominated. So you can invest in kind, you can put Bitcoin in without capital gains tax if you're a French taxpayer. And at maturity, and there's a conversion premium, so a point at which if the stock price is above a certain price, then you can convert it into shares. And if that doesn't happen for some reason, so in 5 years, if the price is lower than that conversion price for the next 5 years, which seems unlikely, but if that was the case, you get the Bitcoin back.
Oh, wow.
So it's a debt, but a debt in Bitcoin terms, right? Which makes it very low risk because all they're going to do is custody the Bitcoin. Whereas companies that are borrowing dollars, if that happened, if the Bitcoin price was low for 5 years, they might have difficulty giving you the money back, right? They'd have to sell a lot of shares, create a lot of dilution. So it makes it, it's already low risk because it's unlikely for Bitcoin to be lower in 5 years historically. But it creates an interesting tax incentive for a French taxpayer who has Bitcoin that they bought at a lower price because they can invest it without paying a tax event at the time of the investment. And there's another factor, which is if you hold shares in French companies for 5 years, you can sell them without another capital gains tax if you do it in a specific way. And so there's an opportunity to potentially capture a premium, which would, increase, you'd invest 1 Bitcoin and maybe get more than 1 Bitcoin out in a tax-free way. Whereas if you were to sell Bitcoin now or in some years, you would have a capital gains hit. So it's a very interesting opportunity, and the first French public company to do this. So the company is relatively small, market cap about 42 million euros, but they are holding 45 million euros worth of Bitcoin, right? So you can see that is interesting. Now, when those convertible notes convert, it will create dilution. There'll be more shares created at that point. It's about 50% dilution, but still the convertible note investment increases a Bitcoin share by a factor of 7. And the company has an enterprise value. It's an active company that's doing software development. Yeah.
Very good. So you heard it here. Fostering adoption. Add them back right here in Paris Blockchain Week. Stay tuned. We will keep bringing you more opinion leaders. We're going to keep bringing you more interviews. Like, share this video, and thank you for watching.